Hello. We are on to our part two of self-concept and perception. We have spent the last lecture taking a look at what self-concept is, the idea that it's who you think you are, and it doesn't have much of a relationship to reality. It's just what you think of yourself. And we also talked about how this can be formed in collaboration with other people. And what always comes into play is this idea of perception, because when you see me and you make some decisions about who I am and what I am, and you respond to me, I am going to decode what you are doing and saying through my own lens, through my own perceptions. I'm going to be taking a look at sight and sound, but also possibly taste and smell and touch as well to try to determine what I think you mean. Perceptions can be right or wrong. Uh, they can be valid, invalid. It's perception just is. It's what we think we understand. And how this has anything to do with self-concept is that we're making decisions about who we think we are based on what we think other people think about us. And so I want to kind of investigate this a little bit further and use some examples about this, and also think about as you are communicating your self-concept, who you think you are, how do you choose to do this? What ways do you reveal some of who you think you are to other people? All right, so we're going to continue with this, and I wanted to show you a little bit in pictures, this idea of self-concept, perception, and who I think I am. When we have media, and we have the social media, we often choose how to present ourselves. And when I post pictures or things online, or I even show them to other people, there's usually an aspect of what parts of who I think I am I want to reveal. Now this picture I love. It's been a profile picture a couple times for me. It's maybe 2 years ago, and it was done by a Lee graduate. She did my whole family, and what I love about this is that it reveals certain parts of who I am in a not so subtle way, but still in an attractive sort of way. So we have the cat hat, which I have on here. And of course, I love cats. I'm the crazy cat woman, so there's a little inside joke there. And my kids are also, I have pictures with them in different types of hats as well. But what's best about this is that this picture was taken in the golden hour, which is that hour before sunset when it's really difficult to take a bad picture of someone. The soft golden light is, if you're positioned correctly, it's really an engaging natural filter. So I love this picture because, hey, I look pretty good, So I post this because I like these different things that it shows about me. Another picture that I'll post about myself because it shows what I think about me is, again, I think this is an attractive picture, and it has a horse in here, and I had horses when I grew up, so it establishes this part of me as an animal person, which is, of course, true. I am an animal person. Another picture that I post that says a lot about my self-concept is a picture my oldest daughter drew years ago. Just call my name and I'll be there. She drew this about me, and it was just so profound when she drew this about me, and that she would have me saying that, because that is what I have tried to do for my children, is to be there. And so this is how I think of myself, and it was great to hear that my daughter also could read that in me. I also like this one. All right, I'm in the raft. I am, if you want to see, this is me right here. I don't know exactly what I'm doing. It's not really an attractive picture, and not all my pictures have to be attractive. I don't have to be pretty or beautiful, but I like this one because it's active. It was before I injured my knee, and so I was able to do things like whitewater rafting. So I like that. I think of myself as active and adventurous and exciting, so it reveals that about me. Another one, again, this is not an attractive one, but it reveals my self-concept again. This is from something I did with my kids a few years ago. It is Mud Day at the Chattanooga, I think it's the Adventure Center, uh, or the Botanical, I don't know what it is, but they have a mud day once a year, and they have this hole that's just full of mud, and you just play in the mud. And I thought this was the most amazing thing to do with the kids. Just get in these awful clothes and just play in the mud together. And that's, again, kind of who I think I am, and I reveal it. Now, the next picture is one of those pictures that you will never see online, and actually, I would like to just burn, and I should probably delete from all the files post haste. This is a picture just from a couple months ago, and I'll show it to you in a second, but it's going to be fast, I'll warn you, because I don't like it. It was when we went to Rock City with with my kids and a friend on around Christmas, and I was wearing this big coat. I didn't bother with makeup or anything like that, and I didn't really do my hair. I just kind of went very natural. And my children called me E.T. for E.T. the extraterrestrial because I had such a big head with the hood on. And I look like I weigh about twice what I actually weigh. And I think I look like I don't have all my teeth. And this picture will not generally find its way online because it is not how I see myself at all. And it's kind of how I would be scared to see myself. This is what I don't want to be, so I'm going to do it real quick. Okay, whew, it's really bad. I look like I'm Honey Boo Boo's mom's mom. So I could be like Honey Boo Boo's grandma, maybe even great grandma. So I hate that. I don't present myself that way. And if I'm going to illustrate my self-concept on campus, I have two basic accessories, or this is actually just in life as opposed to virtual life or my online life, which those pictures were all about my online life, my image of myself. But if I am just going to meet people in real life, I have two accessories that illustrate who I think I am, where people could read and know some more about me. Now, these accessories are not huge in your face things. They're actually a little more subtle. Most people wouldn't know how to read these things, but for people who know me, they recognize how this is an important part of my self-concept. A watch, and this is the watch I have currently. I do not like to have a watch that's like anyone else's. I want a watch that I've never seen somebody have before, and I want something about it that's unique. I want something that's a conversation piece and something that relates me, that relates who I think I am. Now, this one, I love it. I just received it for Christmas, but I asked for this one in particular. And as you know, time is not my friend. I'm a little bit of an absent-minded professor when it comes to time. So on the one hand, it reveals about me that I'm that I'm not very time conscious, so I need to have an accessory to make sure I understand the time, that I am looking at the time. But I also like the fact that it's this sandy pink. I like I like the Swarovski crystals that are in it. I was in Austria a few years ago, and I love Swarovski crystals. And it's different than what people might expect from me if they don't know who I am. If they just kind of see me walking around campus, they see what I wear. This might not be what they would expect from me, but it's much more revealing of who I am than my clothes, probably. Now, the other accessory that really illustrates who I think I am is my purse. And I'll just show you the purses I've had over the last few years, and the very similar to the watch. I do not want a purse that everyone else has. About 20 years ago, this is the purse I had. It is made out of recycled tires and license plates, and I loved this purse. Nobody else ever had anything like it. It was a conversation piece again, and it also showed a little bit of the green ideas, the environmental ideas that I was starting to become aware of. And then I have my next purse, and I had a hard time finding my actual purse, so this isn't my actual purse, but it was something like this. But it was from many years ago. This is probably from 15 years ago, before leopard became a large craze. I was on the cutting edge of this trend in Buffalo, New York area where I lived. I loved the animal prints, and I would order them from online places because I was also one of the first internet shoppers back at this time. This is in the 90s when the internet was in its newer phases and hardly anyone knew about shopping online. I was an eBay addict before anyone else, just about. So I ordered a leopard purse, but it had a fluffy fringe, kind of like this. And people used to stop me all the time and comment on my purse. And I knew that animal prints would become more popular someday. I understood that I was leading a little bit of an edge there. As soon as other people started having leopard, though, it became much less fun. I mean, you'll notice I still adore animal prints, and I just like them because I like them, not because they're popular. But I think ever since I was a little kid and watched Animal Kingdom, I've just loved animal prints. This was my next purse, and this wasn't that long ago. It was maybe 8 years ago, and this purse that I was the first one in Cleveland, Tennessee to have this purse. I bought it from a big city. Was it, I think, Chicago, although it might have been New York City. And they were fairly popular in these large cities, but I knew I had never seen it around southeast Tennessee, so I bought it and I came back. And people were really wild about it, and everyone wanted to know where I'd bought it and how could they buy it. And within a year, these bags were ubiquitous. Everyone had them. And so I had to set mine aside because it was no longer no longer an individual idea. What I have now is a Kate Spade handbag. Now this one's not quite as unique as the other ones, and it made me pause before I bought this one because it wasn't quite as individualistic as my other ones, and it didn't seem to say as much about me as the other ones. And not only that, I only knew of this bag because a student had this bag. Let's see, about a year and a half ago, I came into my COMM-200 class, 9 a.m., first Wednesday of school in August, and as I'm walking in to do the crazy cat lady thing, there's a girl sitting in the front row, and she has this handbag on her desk. And I swear I kept coming back and looking at this handbag. There was something about it that just made me stop. I had a hard time doing my whole crazy cat lady thing because I was entranced by this handbag. It doesn't look all that special in a picture, but there's something about it that really makes you stop and look. So why would this have appealed to me? And maybe it is that stop and look aspect to it. If you notice, something I've said about all these accessories is this idea that they're conversation pieces. And I've told you that I have a lot of introversion, a lot of introverted qualities. And I know that, I understand that. And without planning it exactly, the accessories that I like are the ones that create conversation. And perhaps there's this subconscious recognition of that it's helpful to have ways for conversation to be opened up. I certainly was not thinking about that when I was buying my various accessories. I wasn't thinking, oh, look, here's a purse made out of recycled tires. I think people will want to talk about it and it won't be so awkward. I did not think such a thing. However, when I look and I review this, it reveals something about what I think about myself because I do realize that at first look, I might not be all that intriguing or interesting, but these things let out maybe a little secret, a little idea about myself that hopefully people will want to take a second look and talk and get to know me. I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense to you. I've talked around it quite a bit. So think about your own life. What accoutrements do you have around you? Do they tell a story about you? Is it an obvious story? Is it a very subtle story? Think about it. All right, let's continue then. Your self-concept is not constant. It is not an idea that you have for your entire life, or not a particular idea you have for your entire life. What you think about yourself, who you think you are, changes constantly. And so it doesn't stay the same. Your view of who you are is constantly changing. When you're young, it can be difficult to try to figure out what you think about yourself. What do you believe is true? What do you think is a mask? What's what's socially acceptable? What do you hide? What do you reveal? So it's difficult to kind of figure out what you think about yourself. It can go back and forth, your self-concept in a way, from moment to moment. And so it's hard to know kind of what do I think about myself big picture wise. As you are older and you realize what's comfortable and not comfortable, you get a more of an idea of who you think you should be and who other people think you are, and that all comes into a more unified understanding of who you think you are. Who you think you are can be difficult to mask over time. While self-concept is not self-esteem, they're two different ideas. If your self-concept is that you're slow, you're stupid, you're ugly, you're unlovable, it's going to be difficult to keep that a secret. It is probably going to seep out in many things that you do, and people will be able to read that in you. Likewise, if you think you are amazing, it's going to be difficult to mask that for humility, but those are on very, very shallow levels. We also have people who try to mask who they think they are on a much wider level. And it could be a religious, maybe they try to pretend they're Christian, that they think they're Christian, or they think they're religious, but inside they really don't feel like they've been saved. They really just feel like the sinner, and they don't feel like the redeemed. And while we're high school age, if we've been around a lot of Christians, it's kind of easy to present an image as if we think we're saved, if we think we're a good Christian, but give it 20 years, and it's really difficult to maintain that if that's not what you actually feel about yourself, what you actually think about yourself. And so we often find in the middle-aged years, that's when, if we're going to kind of finally compensate, we're going to finally open up and reveal who we think we are, which most people say if we're going to finally reveal who we are, it's often in the middle-aged years that it's been difficult to present ourselves as different than who we think we are, so we're finally ready to change it. Uh-oh, there we go. Kinch's model of the development of self-concept. What's important about this is that we have a model that has these four different points. And you can jump into this model at any place. It doesn't start at the top, at the bottom, at the right or left. For ease today, I'm just going to start here with the top corner, P, perception of others' responses. And over here is S, or self-concept, B, your behavior, and A, actual response of others. As I explain it, I'm just going to start here, S for self-concept. So, self-concept, how someone thinks about themselves. Let's talk about Jimmy. Jimmy has an image of himself. He believes that he is a genius. He's really smart. He is smarter than anyone else, and he knows it. So, he thinks of himself as being highly intelligent, whereas other people aren't. So that will then have an impact on his behavior. What behavior it turns into is really variable. It depends on how Jimmy is going to translate his ideas. His behavior could be that he's arrogant, condescending. It could also be that he's very talkative in class, that he answers all the questions first. On the other hand, his behavior could go into a different direction because he thinks he's smarter than everyone else. He might not pay any attention in class. He might be just sitting in the back row and in his own world, not engaging at all. So there are lots of different ways he could operationalize that self-concept into behavior. And then people will respond to Jimmy in some way. If he's arrogant and condescending, then their actual response might be to avoid him. They might be annoyed by him. On the other hand, if his genius self-concept turned into behavior in which he's answering all the questions in class and he's trying to correct everyone, maybe he's not being arrogant, but he's just right all the time, an actual response of other people could be to avoid him because they are annoyed by him knowing everything. But you know what? That actual response could be very different. Maybe they see somebody who gets all the answers right, so maybe they befriend Jimmy because they want Jimmy's help. So the actual response depends on that situation. Probably what's more important than the actual response is the perception of the other's response. What does Jimmy think that other people are doing? If they're avoiding him, does he understand why they're avoiding him? And let's say he thinks they're avoiding him because they know they don't measure up, and so they're not even going to try to compete with him because he's so far above them. If that's how he interprets their actual response of avoiding him, that will play into his self-concept that he's a genius and he's higher than everyone else. On the other hand, if they're avoiding him because they're just annoyed that he always has the right answer, but Jimmy doesn't know that's why they're avoiding him. Maybe he thinks they're avoiding him because he stinks, because he has braces, because he's not handsome. Then that might play into a self-concept of thinking even though he's smart, he's not desirable to be around people, that nobody likes him. And that could become a part of his self-concept, that he's unlovable, which could affect his behavior and go into many different directions. All right, so you can jump into this anywhere, though, with this Kinch's model. You don't have to start here. You can start with how people respond, and then how somebody perceives they respond, affecting the self-concept and affecting the behavior. All right. Now, just as you see here, I have the same set of words, but they're written in different fonts. And the idea with fonts is that you can You can express different emotions, different ideas through how the letters are formed. This is true with the way we say the way we would say these things out loud. And individual people will internalize these very differently. So it's important to recognize that when we talk about Kinch's model and that perception of others' responses is important, because if I am telling if I'm telling somebody you are beautiful, and if I am saying it in a kind of official mom declarative way, you are beautiful. This is just fact. This is fact. It's all capital letters. It's important. But if she interprets it this way with the curly cues, which kind of is more of a you are cute kind of beautiful, then she's going to process that differently. Now, I have two daughters, and I've always told them that they are beautiful because, of course, they are beautiful. But they have both taken the same set of words, internalized it differently. One of my daughters, when she was just becoming a teenager, when I would tell her, you are beautiful, she would say, oh, Mom, you have to say that. So she didn't think she was actually beautiful. She thought that that's just something every mother had to say, and even if she looked like a pig, I would tell her she's beautiful. My other daughter, I also told her, you are beautiful. And what was fascinating is she had such a different response. When I would tell her that, for a while, she would stand up straight, flick her hair back, and say, I know. And she wasn't joking. I know. Just a supreme confidence that she was beautiful. Same mom, same words, very different perceptions. So I looked at this picture. My two daughters, both these are from a few years ago, and they're in different places now with how they respond to the you are beautiful. But at that point in time, that's how they responded. And if you look at it, I think you can see that their behavior shows how they internalize that idea you are beautiful. This is at a photo session that was taken at the time they both had those different responses. And I have one who looks rather shy and certain, and the other who's confident. So, which one knows she's beautiful? And which one thinks, I just had to say that she was? Well, at that point in time, Emma, she was my one who's kind of shy. She's looking off, she's smiling for this photo, but it's kind of awkward, and she's trying to do a good job, but she actually has kind of a death grip on this little thing here, and it's just very uncomfortable. Won't make eye contact with the camera. Whereas this one over here looks like she loves the camera loves her, and just expects everyone to understand her beauty. And I think, so you see, this one, Emma, was the one who said, oh, Mom, you just have to say this. And this daughter was the one who used to say, I know I'm beautiful. And so, think back to Kinch's model, we have the actual response of someone to them, that was me saying, you are beautiful, their perception of that, which affected their self-concept, and then in turn affected their behavior. All right. And Irving Goffman points out that how we see ourselves is most often based on how we think others see us, not how they actually do. And this is important for you to understand, that you are decoding others' behaviors, but you're not exactly sure if you're decoding them correctly. Online, we have this image we present to side of ourselves, our self-concept. And I just wanted to point out that in online, or we also can be known as a virtual self-concept, it might be the same or it might be different than your real life self-concept. In the virtual world, uh, being able to express yourself virtually may help some to figure out who they think they are in an environment with very little personal risk. They can express these ideas about themselves, and if it's rejected, it's really sometimes not that big of a blow. Whereas if you try to express yourself in a way where behavior is slammed in real life, that can have a much more devastating, destructive impact. And also, an online self concept can influence a real life self concept. That somebody who learns to express themselves online in a particular way may be able to start finding behaviors that express that in real life as well. I wanted to take you to one more site, and this is a Instagram page, and this is an Instagram page for Arenthia, who happens to be one of my daughters. And what I wanted to show is to try to show how, without doing pictures of the face, there's a way that we're still expressing who she's still expressing who she is, who she thinks she is. You'll notice there's kind of the dark overall mood. She's not a dark person, but there is a moody aspect to her. She enjoys taking pictures of the seemingly mundane and be able to make it interesting. She, and let's see if I can get that now, she will find things that she thinks are curious. A cat's tail over a book. She notices things that other people don't notice, and she'll photograph them. And I think that's an important part of who she is this person who observes, that you don't necessarily expect what she comes up with all of the time. This she took at that last snowstorm right before Christmas. And again, I mean, I was right there, and I didn't see things the way she saw it. And I find it interesting that there's some parts of herself that come out through here. And then what I find even more interesting, is when I saw one of her selfies. Selfies are interesting ways people are trying to get to know themselves. It's hard to see it, but that's it there. And it's a very interesting image that looks quite different than she does, I think, most of the time in real life. But if you notice, she has a lot of people who like her photos. In fact, once she posts a photo, evidently, she'll often have 200 likes within an hour or so. And it's interesting. That's important to her in some ways. She has, I don't know if I can move this, but let's see, let me try it this way. She has 900 followers, and she only follows 235. Evidently, that's a badge of honor, and it's important to her that people are looking and following. What's also important is that they don't expect her to follow them back. If you're looking for a follow back, keep looking. And that also says something about who she is and who she thinks she is. And so online, as you're looking, you looked at you looked at your social media a couple of weeks ago. Is it the same? Is that expressing who you are, who you think you are? It's interesting. The Johari window, I'm going to try to get this one fairly quickly. And just so you know, this is the Johari window, not the Johari, I often want to say it with an accent, like an Asian accent, the Johari window. And it's not that, even though it kind of looks that. It looks mystical. But the name of the two men who designed this model, the first one's name was Joe, Joe, and the first name was Harry, Harry. They just decided to combine it and make it look kind of cool, so they spelled it differently. So it's really the Joe Harry window. And you'll hear most people mispronounce this because it's just the trivia about how it was named. But you can really impress somebody someday if you could explain that to them. And the Joe Harry window tries to illustrate in a model how there are parts of ourselves that we know about and that we don't know about, that others know about and that others don't know about. Okay, so if there are things about you that you know about yourself and are known to others, that's the open area. There might also be things that you do not know about yourself that others know about you, and these would be your blind spots. You don't understand this about yourself. You may someday learn, but today you don't know it. Then there are some things you know about yourself, but other people don't know, and these are the hidden areas. And this is where you might put the facade or a mask on so that people don't find out the hidden. And then there are things that you do not know about yourself, and there are things that are not known to others. This is the unknown. You may know this someday, but you may not. And to get a little bit more information on this, in your textbook, look this up in the back of the book. I think it's in the one of the interpersonal chapters that it talks more about it. If you were in class, I was going to have you discuss the 3 self-concept descriptions I had you do the other day, and I was going to have you talk about this with a classmate and whether or not your self-concepts were true at age 5, 13, and of course they're true now because you just said them probably 3 days ago, so 2 days ago, so I'm assuming they're still correct today. So I'm going to be starting an online discussion, and I would like you to take a look at what were your self-concept descriptions at these ages. Is it the same as now, or has it changed? All right. Thanks a lot, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.